Hey there, welcome to the Adventures in Brain Injury podcast. This is a podcast for folks with brains that want to improve their brain function. I came into this through a severe traumatic brain injury that left me unconscious for weeks and given less than a 10% chance of recovery beyond a persistent vegetative state. I did everything I could to give my brain the best shot to recover. And what it came down to is being healthy on all aspects, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of that. And so that's what I do is what we're doing here at the Adventures in Brain Injury podcast is giving tools so that you can empower yourself instead of relying on the allopathic mainstream medical model or any other medical model for that matter, and rely on what you can do to optimize your brain function to upgrade your life. So this podcast is brought to you by feedabrain.com. That's my company. Feedabrain.com was started to support my book, How to Feed a Brain: Nutrition for Optimal Brain Function and Repair. And at feedabrain.com, there are many supplements and articles about nutritional aspects of health and of brain function that you can learn a lot there, and you can get a lot of really important supplements and strategies to optimize your brain function. If you are enjoying the podcast, support us by either helping us cover the costs of getting it out by going to patreon.com/AIBI for Adventures in Brain Injury. That helps us financially to cover the cost. And getting the word out, go to feedabrain.com/iTunes and leave a review. Free of charge. Just leave a review. Let me know what you think of the podcast and how we're doing with things. I am also consulting with folks who have a loved one in a medical crisis, usually neurological, be it stroke, brain injury, or things of that sort, and also people that are trying to recover after the acute stages. So I work as neurotrauma medical advocate when it comes to the acute phase, and work as an empowered neurorehabilitation coach during the recovery stages. And that's what I'm talking about: empowered, being empowered and doing self-actionable things to improve your brain function. So, speaking of which, today I am so excited to be interviewing my friend, Dr. Anna Cabeca. I'll be introducing her when the interview starts, but I want to let you know that this is all about empowering yourself, and hormones, whether you're male or female, are extremely important to neurological function, and we'll talk about that. So I'm just going to let us get into it. So this is Dr. Anna Cabeca. Dr. Anna, it is so good to have you here. It is so good to be chatting with you. Miss you, my friend. So glad you're living in Texas now also. That's exciting.
It has been.
Soon. Yes. So for my audience, I'm going to introduce you, and then I'm going to ask you to fill in the blanks because I'm sure I'm going to miss some things because you are very accomplished, triple board certified, worked with thousands of women one-on-one to help them understand and improve their health with their hormones and with nutrition and lifestyle and all sorts of self-actionable ways to empower themselves to improve their libido, their energy, their mental capacity. And it is so beautiful what you do and how you work with people and just who you are. I appreciate you so much, Dr. Cabeca.
It is so great to be here with you, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate you too, what you're doing and how you continue to really just keep keep pushing through and aiming higher and higher and higher, and that your heart is to help everyone. So always a blessing to talk with you.
Always, always. Thank you so much. Any blanks you want to fill in on your bio? Anything our audience should know?
Oh, well, I think you said enough. I'm known as the girlfriend doctor. I have my books, The Hormone Fix and Keto Green 16, Essential Eating and Essential Reading. So, really, really proud of those. I'm working on my third book to come out next year, and I'm really excited about that as well. So lots of good stuff. And I recently, since moving to Dallas, started the Girlfriend Doctor show. So I produced it in a little studio in North Dallas, and it's been really fun. Really want to increase connection, increase community, and with that increase, our awakening to our body's amazing capacity to heal when we get these pieces of the puzzle back in place.
Yes. Yes. And what I really love about your about the keto green and your methods is that they're, first of all, our eating styles are very, very similar with Feed Brain and keto green, especially Feed Brain when you get into like the more advanced levels of it, and like better RX I have on the nutritional guide, which is very much keto green style. And I love how aligned we are with that. And that's what it means to improve the hormonal balance. And it turns out hormonal balance and neurology is very tightly connected. So can you speak into that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hormone balance and neurology is so well connected. I mean, it really comes from a couple things. Part of my uncovering issues that were part of my own health journey and my own health struggle, like brain fog and, or a second menopause where or at 48, where I was just feeling like shut down, and I couldn't remember. And it was really a challenge at that time in my life. I remember all the brain fog, the issues, the forgetfulness, and the mood issues, irritability, mood swings, and recognizing really the impact of stress on our hormone progesterone. Number one, progesterone, one of our reproductive hormones, is a neuroprotective hormone. It really does help protect our brain. And when we're under stress and when we're going through menopause, and if you're doing both at the same time, that's a double whammy. And that can really, really deplete your body and your brain significantly and cause many of these symptoms to exacerbate even where we didn't have them before. And that's really been a significant part of the journey for me, finding this out. And the second thing is that when we are when we are transitioning with our hormones through life, our hormones start to decline. DHEA, one of our adrenal prohormones, starts to decline in our 20s. In our 30s and 40s specifically, we start to see a decline in progesterone, this neuroprotective hormone, and estrogen as well dips steeply alongside of it. Well, what we know is in order for our brain to use glucose for fuel, that is estrogen dependent, right? And so when we are having depleted levels of estrogen or in significant amounts of stress, which will cause the end result, estrogen and testosterone, to also be depleted, our brain is basically starving for fuel. But when we shift to using ketones, we completely bypass that hormonal mechanism, and it is like jet fuel to the brain. We have increased clarity, increased comprehension, increased memory. I mean, it goes on from there. So this part, I would say glucose is to gasoline as ketones are to jet fuel.
Nice. Glucose is to gasoline. Wait, say that again.
Glucose is to gasoline as ketones are to jet fuel.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so interesting that progesterone is used as a neuroprotective hormone after brain injury. And I'd love to hear you talk about how that occurs and how exactly progesterone is neuroprotective, and what other hormones are neuroprotective?
Yeah, well, definitely we know that progesterone is neuroprotective. It is a neuropeptide. And so this research was really done at my alma mater. So at Emory University in the ER, when the part of the trials were looking at when people came in with acute brain injury, giving them IV progesterone. And the reason this came about, which is really fascinating, Calvin, I don't know if you know this, but they they observed, and it was actually Dr. Davis out of Emory. And what they observed is that women in their um, luteal phase of their cycle, right before they menstruate, had better recovery from traumatic brain injury than at the earlier phase of their cycle. So they started looking at, what role does progesterone have to play? I mean, just brilliant observation, right? And so what role does progesterone have to play? And they started to look at how progesterone is this neuroprotective hormone. It's not just about its role in reproductive in women, big misunderstanding, but the name itself, progestation, right? Progesterone, right? This is our pro-life hormone. It is the hormone that supports and enables a pregnancy. If we don't have enough, we'll have miscarriages. And it is hormone that declines when our ovarian function declines, and our adrenal glands have to pick up the slack. In both men and women, men produce progesterone too, predominantly by their adrenal glands as well. And again, this is a critical hormone as a neuropeptide, a communicator of cells. So for memory, for recall, for a precursor hormone to DHEA, cortisol, estrogen, and testosterone. We don't get any of those without progesterone. And so that's really important. So the way that they found that progesterone worked in traumatic brain injury was this neuroprotective effect, which is still being studied, but there's many philosophies around it, which also, when clients have better vitamin D, you need vitamin D for progesterone to work well. So when you have better levels of vitamin D, progesterone, when given IV, or I guess the way our body produces it naturally, works better. But that was one of the things they found in the study. So when vitamin D levels were better, progesterone and TBI recovery worked better. And they also showed that it was a natural diuretic. It naturally helped diurese and decrease the pressure from the traumatic brain injury, the swelling, and it did it naturally and better than anything else. And so that was another incredible finding.
Thanks for bringing up that men's hormones as well, which you were very versed in as well. And I'd like to talk a bit about men's hormones, and how, a lot of men hear like hormone imbalance and hormones, and it just kind of turns off like, that's no problem. But I know from my own experience, having a brain injury and not producing the hormones that I normally would, including melatonin and neurohormones like that, and aspects of replacing versus getting the hardware back together that produces it in my body. So when it comes to melatonin, that's also something that's very much decreased after brain injury. Can you talk about how melatonin relates with all the other hormones? And vitamin D is also a hormone, and touch on that as well.
Yeah, so all the hormones do interact. I say it's a web of hormones and hormonal interaction. And so when we look at these hormonal issues that we're experiencing, certainly that melatonin ties in, and melatonin mostly known as our natural circadian hormone, and a hormone that is activated to help us get a good night's sleep. Now, there are many things that interfere with melatonin production, and that is this EMF exposure, blue light exposure that we're getting right now when we're looking at our cameras, our phones, our computers. All of this is blue light exposure, and we know that interferes with melatonin production, and it interferes from the level of the pineal gland, which is this original brain structure that is part of our fight, flight, survival mode, our just innate wisdom, the innate wisdom within us, right? I would say that you can't hack Mother Nature knows best, right? We can't beat Mother Nature. And there's certain things we have to do with, in sync to honor our natural design. And that is the reestablishing the circadian cycle so we get better melatonin production naturally, turning off electronics. We should all do it at 8 p.m. That sounds very strict, but if you are suffering from anything, and we really have to get better at this as a country and as a nation for sure. And so melatonin has an incredible effect on the immune system as well. It supports our immunity, and we know that in clients even in situations in patients with breast cancer, that when we increase levels of melatonin production, they tend to do better. So I think from both the deeper sleep, restorative sleep mode, and let nature do what it needs to do there, but also getting into setting that sleep cycle, but also supporting the immune system is what that shows. And we don't get anywhere really without elevated, high optimal levels of vitamin D. We are designed to live in nature. We have been kept indoors a tremendous amount over this last year, but certainly over the last several decades. We are indoors more than outdoors. Even athletes are playing sports and practicing indoor, and this is causing, especially in football, for instance, we know that athletic sports injuries are just tremendously more abundant, including in football players and college football and pro football. But if you're practicing indoors and you're not getting that sunlight exposure, then you're not getting enough vitamin D. And again, can't beat Mother Nature, so you got to work with her. So getting outside, taking long hikes, camping, and I know that you like to do this, Kevin, too, but like getting out in nature, taking those long hikes, getting back in sync with the Earth's magnetic fields. I mean, this is part of our design. We are designed to be outdoors, not indoors. And so as much as possible, we have to do that. And I talked to a woman recently in my girlfriend doctor club and asked her, she was saying she was struggling with sleep. She was struggling with, motivation, relationship issues, hormone issues, just name it. And so I just asked, when was the last time you walked outside barefoot? I like to ask that question. She goes, honey, I haven't been outside in over 3 months. My groceries are brought in, people visit. And I'm like, no wonder you feel like crap, right? No wonder. You have to get outside. It's not, really, we can get outside, right? Get onto our balconies, get outside, go for a walk, get fresh air, show as much skin exposure as possible when you can, but definitely eye exposure. And this is a real sign of a vitamin D deficiency. If we go outside in the sunlight, even like say early 10, 11, not even the bright 12 noonday sun, but go outside at 10 and look in the direction of the sun. And do your eyes, do you have to squint? Do your eyes water? Do you feel like, oh my God, I need my sunglasses? Well, then you likely have a vitamin D deficiency and you're doing more harm than good by wearing those sunglasses. You have to gradually work up and get that exposure so that you can be outside at all times of day. Sunglass, again, during the peak hours, if you're working outside and you need to have some sunglasses, you can shade them for a few hours, prime hours during the day, especially in the summer heat or at the beach because of the reflection of the sand. But otherwise, you're doing more harm than good by wearing those sunglasses.
Yes, absolutely. Case in point, I'm in the backyard, I was like, ooh, I have Wi-Fi out here. I'm definitely going to go outside. And it's cold right now. I'm in Boise. It's chilly, wearing a jacket, but I'm outside. And it's so important, especially in the past year. There's so much that's just delivered to our door and we don't even need to go outside. But with that, how much time is important to get, how much sunlight do we need to get
Well, it
every
really
day.
depends on your starting point, but I would say, definitely, at least, especially now, we want to get at least an hour a day of sunlight outside time, a minimum. Probably we need much more than that. And if we're dark skinned, we need at least 2 hours a day minimum, right? Again, without
Wow.
sunscreen, without, again, in the midst of the summer, when you're going to risk a sunburn, you want to get some sun exposure, and then put on your protective layers or your protective sunscreen. But for like in these winter months, I mean, we want to get as much sun exposure as we can. And there's a lot of research around this, because vitamin D, we're absorbing it through our skin, through our eyes, right? There's this way that we metabolize this important pro hormone. Vitamin D is a pro hormone, and so we have sunscreen on and lotions on, and that can block, that can decrease. You can say, I'm outside for 3 hours a day and I love the beach, but if you're wearing sunscreen or lotions and then you wash off within 24 hours of sun exposure with soap, taking away those natural oils that are necessary to help our body metabolize this fat soluble vitamin, then you've just washed that good stuff away. And so you've had maybe minimal benefit, but we're seeing that a lot. And I think, like, if you look in Florida and you see there's still a significant amount of vitamin D deficiency, and you ask why, well, maybe the sunglasses and sunscreens are part of the issue. Certainly, I mean, I'll wear a nice hat out for sure. And in the brightest part of the day, certainly on the beach and stuff, or driving, I'll wear some sunglasses. But I note when my eyes start to get sensitive, that like I can't look at the sun or it feels too bright out there, I got to exercise my eye. I have to exercise this capacity back up for this whole hormonal symphony to occur. And it's just a simple hack, a biohack that we should do to really obtain this optimal hormonal balance. And again, especially if we've had any type of neuronal injury. I have a daughter who has seizures, and I have another daughter who's had 5 concussions, and effects of certainly prolonged effects of traumatic brain injury, and an ex-husband who was in a coma for 2 months after traumatic brain injury. I know this stuff personally, right? I know this stuff personally. I'm passionate about it. So progesterone is a go-to for clients, especially in acute phases and then over age 40, especially if you've had a traumatic brain injury. But everything we can do to empower the body's progesterone, like maca, and I created my Mighty Maca Green supplement. I write about it in my books as well. But that to help support your DHEA and your progesterone production naturally, which you should do at any age. And then omega-3 fatty acids and EPA with a high EPA DHA ratio. And I know you talk about this. So this is, I can't emphasize that point enough, but these go, and then vitamin D. Those four things I would add as part of a routine in a majority of regimens, men and women.
Could you say those 4 again?
Yep, bioidentical progesterone, not for our younger, but like if definitely over 40, but anything we want to look at that progesterone, because that's a mother hormone. So we may supplement short-term in younger clients with like 20-year-old with, a car accident and a concussion. We might want to supplement short-term, 1 or 2 cycles just and acutely. But then after that, check hormone levels and see where they're at. So we can also use pregnenolone, another mother hormone that's also another neuroprotective hormone. So I would supplement and optimize progesterone levels. And I use my Pure Balance cream in mild cases just for hormonal balance. I use that in women because I put in it progesterone and pregnenolone for these neuroprotective reasons and my own history with trauma. And I create what works best for me. And that's also natural, free of all the chemicals and bad stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say with sunscreen, I haven't worn sunscreen, and boy, even when I was a kid, I didn't like wearing sunscreen. My mom would sometimes be like, "You gotta wear this," and I'd be like, "It smells terrible. Like whatever's in there, I don't really want it." But but yeah, there's so many chemicals and foreign things to our synthetic molecules. And somebody said this recently, um, no synthetic molecule supports the human organism
Right.
from the inside. So like, yes, I love it. And Dr. Anna has many amazing products. Feederbrain.com/Dr. Anna. And you can see all of the stuff she has. So we're going to talk about some of that. So, all right, what about the pregnenolone plus the progesterone? You're administering as a cream, and that's
I
the Pure
typically will
Balance
do
cream.
that's the Pure Balance cream, but in cases, where we can prescribe, I would prescribe 200 to 400 milligrams of progesterone orally. But we found great effects with the cream, and just even applying around the neck, around the face, and then our prescription higher dose cream. I mean, that can be, the research was done on injectable progesterone. So in the case of acute injectable or IV progesterone. So
Right.
in the acute TBI, you want IV progesterone as soon as your loved one is in that ER. And IV bioidentical progesterone, if you can't get it, this is where the cream can come in as a backup. So yeah, progesterone, pregnenolone first, and the second would be, again, supporting your body's own natural production. And getting out as much sun, but getting vitamin D, getting high levels of vitamin D. And I would add in there, increase your melatonin with that too. And so you want your serum levels of vitamin D to be 100, and really in traumatic brain injury closer to that 80-100 range. And then I always say my omega-3 fish oils, and then we're going to do high dose omega-3 fish oils, 10,000 IUs,
Mm-hmm.
and in a high quality omega-3. And that's Barry Sears' works around that is legendary and very well supported.
Absolutely.
And the fourth is I use my Mighty Maca Plus, because it's detoxifying and helps naturally increase your DHEA and progesterone levels through adaptogenic support and alkalinizers and detoxifiers. So those are the four key areas. So if I add the fifth would be melatonin. So
Mm-hmm.
progesterone, pregnenolone, vitamin D, omega-3, Mighty Maca Plus, and melatonin.
What about supplementing with vitamin D?
Yeah, definitely to supplement with vitamin D. And when we
I'm
supplement with vitamin D, we use D3 with K2.
Okay. And I know there's synthetic forms of vitamin D as well. And those often drive calcification issues and things like that. How do we know when we're dealing with synthetic or natural vitamin D?
Well, I would say look at my website, look at my vitamin D supplement, and it's a Pura D3K2, and
Mm-hmm.
look at how it's written on the ingredient label. That's a bioidentical, bioavailable vitamin D3 and appropriate vitamin K2. Vitamin D says deposit calcium. Vitamin K says where. 10 years ago, I
Right,
was talking
exactly.
about this. Yep, 10 years ago, I was talking about this, and another famous doctor who was part of Metametrics at the time, a lab company, and we had this discussion about vitamin D metabolism. And he said that to me, vitamin D deposits calcium. Vitamin D says to deposit calcium, and vitamin K
Vitamin K
says
says
where. And we
where.
definitely don't want it in the breast tissue. We don't want it in the arteries. We
Pineal
want it in
gland.
the we don't want it in the pineal gland, calcifications in the nervous system. We want it in our bones, right? We want the calcium in our bones. So beyond, like one of the functions of vitamin D is this to improve, right? Helps improve strong bones because of this relay, this instruction that it's giving. And that's really important to understand. And so always looking at vitamin D K combinations. And so sad because even today, a full decade after well substantiated research, it's not common practice.
I know. I
So,
know. I know. The
yeah.
medical, I don't know, establishment matrix, I often call it the medical matrix. Like, it's often just not
Well,
really
what's
following
pharma?
research. Pharma.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. pharma can't make it, then
Mhm.
the physician's hands are slapped in
Yeah.
recommending it. Now it goes beyond the medical practice. It goes to the administration. I mean, it really does go higher up into what physicians are being told, allowed, or reprimanded for doing. And if you're talking, like 10 years ago, I was talking vitamin D, Blue Cross Blue Shield. If you have insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield, let me just tell you, Blue Cross Blue Shield, like, sent me a letter. I got a phone call from their doctor, their medical director. You're ordering all these vitamin D tests and you're retesting them in 2 months. There's no indication. We're not paying you for this. And they reimbursed. So they took all that money back first, then. And so, and then they said there's no reason to retest. I'm like, well, then how do you know if they're optimal? I have patients with cancer, I have patients with heart disease, I have patients with dementia. I said, this is an essential component of hormonal balance for them. Without vitamin D, oxytocin doesn't work well, progesterone doesn't work well. I mean, just name it. And they said, nope, it's not indicated. Too bad. Yep.
Mm.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that's how I got slapped on the hand over 10 years ago. I mean, really. And it's like, we're just doing good for our patients. And then we're told we can't do this. Now, at least we can do this now. There's still a lot of resistance to retesting because there's no guidelines, because vitamin D is natural and it can be produced everywhere. So funding behind it, there's not a lot of momentum, but hopefully, we'll get some NIH studies and some other people, some other ways to look at this. But the integrated, this part, vitamin D metabolism, is really well researched, and it's available. This information is available in the literature. And as clinicians practicing the art of medicine, recommending vitamin D, again, first sun exposure, like Kevin's getting here, getting outside, getting good sun, getting in nature, grounding with the Earth's magnetic field, right? This is energy medicine, and this is good medicine. And then supplementing as a second, right? Always use nature first and then supplement. But when you supplement with the good stuff, the right stuff, the stuff that's going to help you, not hurt you.
Perfect. Yeah,
Oh,
back.
Kevin, there's a message, a question that came in from
Beautiful.
Kristen on Facebook. And great. So Kristen wrote in, so I have to choose between skin cancer, which I'm at very high risk for, or my brain, as often happens with me. It is so often a choice as to which is more important at the moment. I have the same struggle between brain injury needs versus high blood pressure, opposite needs. And I think this is a great point, Kristen, and great question. And again, how do we get skin cancer, and what type of skin cancer are we at risk for? Many of the skin cancer, I mean, we're not going to die from skin cancer. What we worry about is a melanoma, but sun exposure has very little to do with melanoma risk. And so I think understanding that is really important. Optimizing your vitamin D, taking care of your skin. Absolutely. Like, I'm big on that. I'm a sun worshiper. I'm a Leo. I've lived in the South for over 30 years. And so I take really good care of my skin and get rid of the age spots, all the things that early issues or concerns, really monitor them and be very proactive about treating them. So supplementing with good quality vitamins, avoiding sugars. Like, sugars are going to increase our risk for all types of cancer, and like getting keto green, getting keto alkaline. That'll all make a difference, Kristen. So you can not worry about skin cancer, and you can feed your brain.
Yes, yes. In fact, the building the melanoma from our skin happens, and we are protected in many, many ways. So I love that. I know that there was a huge myth of like you need to wear sunscreen in order to protect your skin. It like really vilified the sun. The sun. Like, we've been living with the sun since the beginning of existence. That's the entire reason we're in
Yeah.
existence,
And many of the chemicals in sunscreens actually are promoters of skin cancer.
I
So,
know.
any octobenzenes, any of that. So zinc oxide, a clean zinc oxide, they make them a lot better than they did when I was growing up. We had the white streaks, right? So zinc, there are great zinc oxide formulas that we can use that are a lot better, and that's something to consider after your first hour of sun exposure. And depending on your skin type too, like me, I can be out for a couple hours depending on what time of year and time of day. Sometimes it's only a half hour. So you know your body, so use that, use that smartly. And then I use a rashi or a cover up when I'm out of the water, or if I'm in the water for a long time, I'm in a rashi after a while. And when I can and then I'm covering my face, but I want to get my body exposed as much as possible. Certainly my legs and back and stomach and all of the rest of our parts that we can expose. And then again, consider what else could be increasing the risk, because in general, vitamin D decreases the risk of all cancers, including breast cancer, colon cancer, and decreases the risk of osteoporosis, decreases the risk of heart disease, diabetes. And so a lot of benefit to this.
Beautiful. All right, beautiful. And with brain injury, we often see hormonal changes. I wanted to touch on what kind of hormonal changes can occur after brain injury and how those are different at different ages.
Yeah. Now this is really critical. So with traumatic brain injury, often what we see is this decline in these neuroprotective hormones, specifically progesterone, and as a result, estrogen and testosterone. So it's very well noted in men. Again, the reason men have 10 times as much testosterone than women. So we see this pretty acutely as in men with traumatic brain injury, that their testosterone levels are significantly impaired. And so there's a push to replace these levels. And I believe there's a place for that at physiologic levels, but also we can't forget the other hormones that are responsible for the production of testosterone. That includes DHEA and progesterone and pregnenolone. So we want to make these hormones, we want to continue to make them, but definitely we see a decline in these reproductive hormones. And with that, the hormones, we see an increase in cortisol over time, and then a flatlining of cortisol, so that our body is suppressed our cortisol production. And with that, our oxytocin hormone is also suppressed. So those of us who had trauma, PTSD, TBI, can often experience this I call it the oxytocin cortisol disconnect. And I write about that, anyone with stress, chapter 10 in the Hormone Fix. It is a life-saving chapter. It really is, because so many people have written to me and said, thank you. I now understand why I acted that way. And physiology drives behavior. So those are some of the big hormones that affect us at all ages. And when we've had these traumas early on in our life, and we're going through this perimenopause or andropause, right? Men's hormones decline as well mid-age, and these symptoms can exacerbate. So we really have to get a handle on it by mastering cortisol, insulin, and oxytocin. And I write about that in the Hormone Fix so everyone can take charge.
Yes, take charge, self-empowerment, taking your health into your own hands. That's what we're all about. It's how I recovered. That's what Adventures in Brain Injury and Feed a Brain is all about, doing what you can control. So we talked a little bit about how allopathic medicine can, kind of put things on the back burner if they don't. They aren't part of big pharma and profitable, and it's profit-driven medical model, of course. So what are some ways in which allopathic methods are ineffective in diagnosing and treating hormonal imbalance? And more importantly, what are a few things that we can do right now to improve our hormones and therefore improve our brain function?
Yeah, there's a few things. Like I think in much of, allopathic medicine it's hard to test hormones because hormones are pulsatile.
moving
right?
target.
And so typically patients in my practice, now I've just retired my clinical practice, but patients in my practice, I would tell them, I have to, I'm going to test every body fluid because it tells us something else, gives us piece of the picture. So whether it's your saliva, whether it's your urine, whether it's your blood, right? I'm going to investigate because it gives us an idea. And also there's energetic testing. Hormones are energetic molecules. So in my book, The Hormone Fix, I have a couple quizzes that kind of help you tease out a little bit, okay, am I really, how bad am I, or how good am I doing here with hormones? So some of those symptoms. And because hormones are hard to test, that's been a challenge. And because our medical system is really a lot about, this area needs to be supported better because this predominantly rest on women's health and bioidentical hormones for women, bioidentical hormones for men as well. And so the forms that have been used for men in testosterone have been pretty much bioidentical. And we have some bioidentical progesterone known as prometrium that women and men can both be prescribed. But compounding pharmacies really help. So if you guys ever see anything about, compounding pharmacies, please support them because this allows us as physicians to practice the art of medicine and customize therapies for our patients in very natural ways. Now, there is in most of the hormone replacement is synthetic hormones, and we know from many studies that it doesn't work as well. But what we do know from other fields in medicine that bioidentical insulin is used to treat diabetes, and that works better than anything else. And as well as bioidentical thyroid, like Synthroid, for instance, a bioidentical thyroid works well for supporting the thyroid, and no other synthetic molecules work quite as well, right? So this is important to understand. When we balance the body from the cellular level with what we need, it can really help. So I think that's where we've gone awry. And then just certain things that I talk about in my books, both the Hormone Fix and Keto Green 16. I encourage you to check them out because they are essential reading. You'll see so many ahas. People have come to me with pages dog-eared and tabbed up and written in, and it just brings me so much joy because I've been through my own hormonal mess, my own trauma. I just mentioned that my ex-husband was in a traumatic brain injury in a coma for 2 months. We thought we were going to lose him. My daughter suffered from seizures since she was a young girl, and then history of concussions in another child. So multiple things. Understanding the brain is a important part in feeding the brain in the right way. And I say feed it with ketones and an alkaline diet, get keto green, and nourish your mind with positive thoughts and a whole bucket of gratitude on a daily basis, even throughout the day. Where our thoughts go, our physiology will follow. So we really have to harness that.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Cabeca. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, definitely, guys. Thanks for being here. Definitely tag me if you and share this and tag me and let me know how you liked our discussion. Any questions you have, I'll pop back in and look. But you can find me at dranna.com. So DRANNA.com, really easy. And be sure to like me on Instagram at The Girlfriend Doctor, and on Facebook, you can find me at The Girlfriend Doctor. But join my Girlfriend Doctor Club. So for women out there, really creating a community, and we're doing the Keto Green Detox right now. It's not too late to join us. The membership for January is $1, and so it's very steeply discount. Of course, it's just I want you in and committed to do this Keto Green Detox with me. So I invite you to do that. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. $1. That's steep. That's steep.
I
But
know.
yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for offering this to folks and really just helping so many people. Enormous amount of gratitude for you. I wake up appreciative every single day, appreciative of all of you out there that are joining us. And yeah, stay appreciative, stay healthy, build up your capacity to create your own your own endogenous or made within your own body production of hormones and of all the things, and when necessary, supplement and that's what supplements are, to supplement a diet, a lifestyle, all of that, everything that your body does anyways. So thank you guys so much, and thank you, Dr. Anna. Any parting words?
Well, I just say, keep up the good work. It's great being here. Listen to everything Kevin has to say. He's been researching it, and anything that you're dealing with, y'all just think about it in a positive way. Really focus on all the good that you have and that we can be grateful for, and that's how we can get through each day. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Adios, y'all. Dr. Anna Cabeca is fantastic, as you can see. Hopefully that's given you a lot of really good things that you can do yourself. She has excellent products at her website. You can get to it at feedyourbrain.com/Dr. Anna. That's Dr. Anna. And you can, like, for example, if you go over to the products tab, you're going to see the Mighty Maca. You'll see the Pura cream, which is the progesterone and pregnenolone combination that goes directly to your skin, which enters your blood very effectively. So yeah, check all that stuff out. And thank you guys for being here. Leave a review on iTunes. Super appreciated. Go to feedyourbrain.com/iTunes. And, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was mostly focused on female, but it definitely has male aspects as well. And I'm planning to do an interview for male hormones specifically as well. So we'll see you there, and feel free to leave a comment of anything else you would like to hear or see in the future. And as I said, I appreciate you guys. All right, talk soon. Someone take me to a doctor.